We have developed speed, but we have shut ourselves in. Machinery that gives abundance has left us in want. We think too much and feel too little. More than machinery, we need humanity.
We know the air is unfit to breathe and our food is unfit to eat. As if that's the way it's supposed to be. We know things are bad, worse than bad. They're crazy.
Silence! The great and powerful Oz knows why you have come.
You've got to say, I'm a human being. God damn it. My life has value.
You have meddled with the primal forces of nature.
Don't give yourselves to brutes. Men who despise you, enslave you, who regiment your lives, tell you what to do, what to think, or what to feel, who drill you, diet you, treat you like cattle, use you as cannon fodder. Don't give yourselves to these unnatural men with machine minds and machine hearts.
And now, Reality Rants with Jason Bermas.
And who loves you? And who do you love?
Good morning, everybody. I am Jason Bermas. This is Reality Rants over at Red Voice Media. We've actually got a ton to cover in the next 2 hours, from Epstein all the way to FTX, to a digital blockchain hellscape slavery that I'm going to try to put into perspective in maybe a way I have not before, to show you how this escalation is happening in real time, and this is a real movement, and these people have come out and openly discussed what they want for the general populace, and that is a tokenized track trace database society where it is a universal welfare system. That's what a UBI is, a universal welfare system where these programmable tokens can only be utilized for what they deem fit, when they deem fit, and where they deem fit. And when I say they, I mean the have everythings, not the you'll own nothings and like it, not the equalization of the have and have nots. The predator class and their minions will always have loopholes via these scenarios. So before I get there, before I get into the blockchain, before I get into crypto in general, I want to talk Epstein, because there's a lot of news stories out via Epstein, and it looks like we're now going to have more documents unsealed, and relatively a bunch of documents that were unsealed probably 4 to 5 years ago, when I began covering this story heavily again, well before Epstein's arrest, well before Ghislaine Maxwell's arrest and trial. Okay? And that's because I've been covering it a decade before when I worked at InfoWars. Yeah, but that organization shouldn't be on Twitter. That organization shouldn't be on YouTube, right? Only talking about that story a decade plus before really anybody else would amplify it, okay? So these documents, many were within the realm of Virginia Giuffre Roberts' lawsuits and other lawsuits, not just hers, via individuals. Now, it's been speculated on what some of these names are. Some of the names are now out. One person was, I believe, the cousin of J.B. Pritzker, who is the Illinois governor, but it was in relation to an eyewitness not being able to identify that person. So it's pretty murky. And remember, it's going to be murky because we can't see the vast majority, not only of the lawsuit documents, but of the police report documents internally via the Miami investigation and prior. We haven't seen anything from New York in the late 90s, mid 90s, and there may be other cases we don't even know about. I want to make that extremely clear. But there have always been others that were named in these documents as alleged abusers. Okay, and I want to be very careful here because I've had a lot of my Epstein stuff taken down via the guise of cyberbullying. So when I mention these names, I'm going to mention them in the context that you need to go and read the documents yourself and see what they have been accused of. Because I am not making these accusations, period. But you have Bill Richardson, Glenn Dubin, George Mitchell, Leon Black also seemed to be involved in some way. You had Les Wexner, who was exonerated of any wrongdoing via Epstein. So there's a lot of names in there that have not been explored. And then, you have redacted names that allegedly are people like Ehud Barak. Okay? The big names. Big names. But I do want to say that before I get into these news stories and the fact that these John Does that were protected, a judge has ruled that basically they're going to be unsealed. Not all of them. John Doe 183 in court filings will remain anonymous despite being the subject of intense media coverage and was repeatedly named in Maxwell's sex trafficking trial. You see that? So I'm just going to say this also. We have to be really careful here. But we had somebody ask Bill Clinton about his relationship with Epstein, which has been widely reported on in the press. And Bill Clinton immediately laughs. The Secret Service agent can't believe the question has been asked. He said he answers for him no, but he seems to trail off and he says the evidence is there. By the way, 158 watching over on YouTube. Can we get 100 thumbs up right now? Let's boost this broadcast. It's an important broadcast. Okay? So what do you have right now? First of all, you have Epstein, who failed to commit suicide once and then did commit suicide the second time. You then had Maxwell picked up after that. You had a very limited, short trial that the media, in large part, did not pay attention to compared to other trials of much less significance. You had a sentencing which was, in my opinion, light and open for appeal, a movement of that person into a country club style prison, and now a media allowing interviews with Maxwell where Maxwell's pretty much declaring innocence and said she made a bad decision on her boyfriend. And then also not only portrays herself as a victim in a lot of cases, but a heroine within this prison system. It's madness, I know, but this is the movement of this case, okay? And then with Virginia Giuffre Roberts now saying that she doesn't believe, she believes she may have been mistaken about Alan Dershowitz. That's a huge blow. A huge blow to the narrative, okay? So you have this case. Now, royal blackmail. Jeffrey Epstein wanted to blackmail the Queen in exchange for his silence on Prince Andrew allegations. This is I guess they updated it today, but it was out yesterday. And when I read this, I thought this was really, really suspect, okay? I think there are elements of truth in this, but just like anything, I think this is limited hangout. So John Bryan, who dated Sarah Ferguson, for those that don't know, who don't keep up on the royal family, and I don't blame you, Fergie, as she's often called in the media, was Prince Andrew's wife, obviously ex-wife. And during the 90s, Brian starts to tell a story of how he believes that Epstein was trying to catch Andrew in his web and blackmail the Queen, but was never able to do so. Total bullshit. Sorry, don't buy it for a second. And that's not to say that he wasn't compromised, but let me explain what the aspects were in this story that I do not buy 1 second. Hopefully I can have my opinion. All right. So in this interview, essentially, Brian claims that Epstein had made hundreds of millions of dollars. And there's some question via this billionaire aspect through blackmail. And look, blackmail, trafficking, underage extortion. I want to keep this as family friendly as possible, especially when we get to those kind of things. All that's part of it. But when you just start peeling back the layers, what? You're not talking about the institutional presence of Epstein in the technology arena, in this foundation arena, in the transhumanist arena, all over the place, and also in the intelligence arena. So Vicky Ward, lover or hater, she did some early work on Epstein. And, again, I'm not saying trust Vicky Ward, but Vicky Ward started putting out the information that Epstein was friends with Adnan Khashoggi, who had all sorts of connections to Iran-Contra and arms dealing, okay? And also put it out there that Acosta, who, was in the Trump administration at the time, and who was the AG during the Miami case, was told it was above his pay grade, the Epstein case, and that Epstein was intelligence. When he was asked about this story, he did not deny it. He talked around it, and then he was forced to resign. That's the truth. So what I'm trying to say about this is this wants you to look away from all those other things and wants you to also look away from the aspect that Epstein was heavily involved with Wexner and what? The modeling industry. Where if we go back to that timeline we talked about, you have Jean-Luc Brunel, who also is in the modeling business, heavily connected to Epstein and Maxwell. I mean, they used pictures of Jean-Luc Brunel in the case against Maxwell on Epstein's plane. You know, those really gross, like, foot massage pictures that make you want to just bowl over and puke. And Brunel ends up committing suicide in prison in Spain. That was in February, I believe. Now, he may have committed suicide. Who knows what kind of conditions they had on this guy. But that's another, let's tie it on up. Let's tie it on up. And I'm pretty sure that some of the pictures with Brunel in this Epstein case and saga, you can look him up. He's wearing like Israeli Defense Force. Wow, weird. Interesting. So I'm not sure we're going to do it. We may do it a little later. But I queued up Invisible Empire, a New World Order Defined, so people could really understand how these networks work via Iran-Contra, because we got to look in Iran-Contra. So what am I trying to say via Epstein? Epstein seems to very much be a part of this network in the 80s into the 90s. Okay? And we should be emphasizing and not disregarding the public knowledge we have about Epstein with a fake passport, apparently administered by Austria with a separate identity and an address in Saudi Arabia. All the hallmarks of at least an intelligence asset. So, you got arms dealing, you got money laundering, you got blackmail, okay? And they only want you to look at these blackmail trails and act like he was able to garner all of this money and all of this power just through that when he's a member of the CFR at one point, and a member of the Trilateral Commission. And Epstein's lawyer claimed basically he came up with the Clinton initiative for the Clinton Foundation back in the day. We know, we got pictures of him in the 90s with Clinton. And the idea that somehow Prince Andrew was just being extorted on in the 90s and he never got the goods on him, as John Bryan says, is Johnny nonsense. Johnny nonsense. They kept up a relationship well into that. Well into that. After his first arrest, Andrew and Epstein met several times. It's on camera. And then you look at all these other pictures that you have during these the royal ridiculousness and what many of the lawyers said for the victims. Okay, and we used to play these clips when we were just talking lawsuits. We weren't even into arrests yet. And we're talking about stacks and stacks and stacks of documents. Pictures of Epstein and Maxwell with who? Harvey Weinstein. And, man, I wish that I could remember the lawyer's name. It's killing me right now that I can't remember the lawyer's name. But he talked about Weinstein basically running Hollywood and having connections to these people. And who did Weinstein hire to do his dirty work when anybody might speak up about his abuses? Well, Black Cube. And Black Cube is what? A bunch of ex-IDF and Mossad agents. Intelligence goes a long way. It's really generational. One of the things I point to via David Rockefeller, for instance, who created many of the institutions inside and outside of governance that are extremely influential and active today. What do I point out about him that a lot of people don't? He was naval intelligence. He spent time in a regimented military setting and used what he learned via intelligence tricks, okay, and influences. And a lot of this is about connections to people and influencing. And that's how he created a bunch of his networks. Yeah, the guy had, for instance, way back in the day, before the computies, before the magic boxes, people in my age group, they'll remember it. We had a thing called the Dewey Decimal System. You go into a library, and this is how you look up for information, right? By subject or author or title. And he had a similar card catalog system for everybody that he had met. And then after he had met them at a certain occasion, he would take it out, it would get typed on, where they met, short synopsis. Some have been released, many have not. The Kissinger one has. It's very telling. Very telling. It shows you the significance of roundtable groups like the Bilderberg Group. So if you have somebody like Epstein, okay, who connects with somebody like Maxwell Ghislaine, whose father is, neck deep in media and intelligence and fraud, okay? I mean, up to here, there's another one of these connections they want you to forget about. Whitney Webb has done a 2-part book series called One Nation Under Blackmail, Part 1 and 2. I have not read them. They look extremely dense. I need to grab a copy of each and really get down and dirty with them and get a highlighter and then have her on after the fact so we can do a real broadcast. I'd hate to have her on. I wouldn't hate to have her on before I read the books, but I think it would be so much better if I were to read the books, because these are the kind of connections that we really need to discuss. And then I just want to put this one up there. Jeffrey Epstein documents to be unsealed, potentially revealing acquaintances, judge orders. So more people within the network. Now, that's great. But once again, what have we discussed? That in court, during the Ghislaine Maxwell trial, they blacked out pictures on the wall. They blacked out binders of information, just what was on the spine of those binders. They did not show us what was inside those binders, whether they were ledgers or photographs. They showed drawers full of hard drives, Maxter hard drives, and burned discs, not the material on them. Instead, largely what we saw was already in the public arena. Period. So, I got to emphasize this again. This has been managed. It continues to be managed. I want justice. I want more information to come out. Have we gotten some justice? Yes. Let's not act like there hasn't been some justice in the sense that we've burned their middlemen, and that's what these people were, just middlemen, social climbers, nepotistic parts of the system, definitely not decision makers at the top. And hopefully it gives pause or haste to others that would participate in this kind of thing on many levels, right? Like I said, Weinstein's in jail right now, not having a good time. Ghislaine Maxwell, yeah, it's like a country club. Still, I'm pretty sure she'd rather not be in prison. Okay. Jeffrey Epstein, not breathing anymore. I know there's a lot of other people. Bermas, you shill. Of course Epstein's alive. It's Anthony Bourdain they showed us pictures of. My goodness gracious. Okay. And look, I want to believe that one day we'll get more justice. Very hard for me to believe. One of the things that I highlighted when talking to Mel K yesterday, and I'm not sure exactly when that's going to air, but should be coming up in the next few days, is that if you look at political corruption, even when you get convictions like in Iran-Contra, and that was probably the biggest burn I've seen in my lifetime with the most powerful people. A lot of them end up getting pardoned. A lot of them don't do the sentences that, that they're given. You look at, for instance, financial scandals, because now we've got FTX, and I'm going to get to FTX in a minute, and Grayscale, and where this is all heading with digital blockchain slavery. But Scooter Libby is like the biggest name in business and government to go down. Period. Scooter Libby, Enron. Most people don't even remember that anymore. And Trump pardoned his ass. He was the only guy doing real prison time in what I would call, especially for the time, a time of unparalleled corruption that was outward in the Bush administration. Just totally and completely in your face. Enron was like a microcosm of what was really going down. Okay? And Scooter Libby's the best you got? Scoot. He's the best you got. So I've just seen a multitude of criminal activity that has been exposed on a high level over the past 20 years in regards to war crimes and fraud in many instances that is enabled and controlled by either government or corporate entities, sometimes both in collusion with one another. That's why it's so important to go after WikiLeaks, right? They don't like big email dumps that show their outward hubris and corruption. They'd rather not have that not be there. Again, Hunter Biden's laptop, a microcosm for all this stuff. Because you have this within the Justice Department prior to the Trump impeachment, period. So you're acting like you have no information whatsoever that there's corrupt business dealings via Ukraine and Hunt and JoJo and his bro. I mean, there was mainstream articles already put out about it, Justice Department. And then you have all that data. You've got, I mean, it's incredible to say But you've got cell phone data where you understand that Hunter is calling his dad in his phone Pedo Peter. What? What? I mean, aside from the fact that you got Joey B, back when he could still speak, up on stage with Richard Haas bragging about withholding $1 billion. Well, son of a bitch. Well, son of a bitch. We have an injustice department. I learned that the hard way post 9/11. I knew Robert Mueller wasn't my friend. I knew the Durham investigation wasn't going nowhere. I know Hillary wasn't going to jail. Isn't going to jail. Ever. You can chant lock her up all you want. Hillary for prison all you want. It's a meme. It's a meme. It's it. It's all it is. And last night, I'm watching this special. I'm not sure whether it was probably NBC. It's probably NBC. And all of it is propagated that January 6th is a deadly insurrection, and Alex Jones and Tucker Carlson are just liars, and everything that comes out of Fox News is a lie. And look, Fox News ain't great. Tucker isn't the best. Tucker does an all right job. Sometimes he kills it. But other times, he gets it dead wrong. Like, no offense, Tuck. I mean, just a small example. But even when you have a bunch of lunatics dressed in black ripping down statues, okay? You don't charge them with terrorism. They're not terrorists. Charge them with the crimes on the books. Same thing if they're arsonists and burn down a building. I don't need new terrorism laws for American citizens. Thanks. Thanks, Tuck. I mean, that's just one small thing. But it's all about misinformation and disinformation, and you're not allowed to question an election. And everybody's there. Soledad O'Brien, Katie Couric, all the respected authoritative sources. Everything's about race all of a sudden. Makes me ill. Sick. I mean, God. So, right now, they're criminalizing speech, thought. They're branding things disinformation, misinformation. They're promoting great narratives that don't want you to look at the aspects of the Epstein case that we just discussed. Like, they couldn't wait on this show to play Bill Barr, who was never your friend, never your buddy, never coming to save you. Just like Mueller wasn't coming to save you. Just like Bolton wasn't a good guy. Mike Pompeo still ain't coming. You think Mike Pompeo speaking at all these events and running for president's a good thing? Wow. Wow. I mean, Barr and Pompeo are like on levels. There are levels to this game of how sociopathic you could possibly be and how comfortable you can be with outright lying. So Bill Barr, they can't wait. They keep playing this clip, called everything to do with any kind of election interference, let's say in 2022, bullshit twice. Again, the same guy that's Justice Department had the Hunter Biden laptop and allowed a second impeachment. And still no criminal investigation. Then after the fact, he goes, whoopsie. Whoopsie-doo. Oh, they lied to me. I didn't know. I'm Bill Barr. I didn't know. Right? Same way like a smug Pompeo sat up there when he was being questioned after, the results, and they wanted Trump to concede, and he hadn't conceded. And he was talking about how, in January, whatever, they're going to inaugurate the president, and he alluded to it being Trump. And he's smirking too. Yes, it'll be done. And then they keep showing that damn noose. Again, and again, and again, and again. They keep wanting to talk about hang Pence. Hang Pence. I was there. First of all, whenever you see that gallow or that noose, do you think that could actually work? That's not how a noose works or a gallow works. For those that haven't seen a Western or looked at any historical photos. Sure, you could do it makeshift with a tree and all that other stuff, but I mean, you need more than like a 2x4, like, which that is like a 2x4. A human being is going to break that. Two, usually you have it so the floor comes out and you're pulled down and it's the initial break of the neck and then the choke. It's over, right? There is no fall down. You weren't hanging anybody with a rope like this long with a knot that was a joke at all. And what they kept, they showed the one guy waving a Confederate flag again and again and again. The one idiot. They love that. Boy, if they can associate the American people with the Confederate flag and racism and then Trump, oh, they love it. Love it. And that's not to say there wasn't violence there. Like I'm looking at the shots from the second level where these people are fighting cops to try to get in. I taped that. That happened. There were people violent. Anybody who did that, again, let's not charge them with sedition or terrorism. But if you assaulted somebody, guess what? You can charge them with assault. It's a novel premise. I know. It's a little kooky. I know. But I'm just going to throw it out there. Kind of, you know, maybe, I don't know. All right, let's move on a little bit. Let's talk a little FTX. Let's talk a little grayscale, because I don't know much about grayscale. I didn't know much about FTX. FTX kind of came out of nowhere. My crypto knowledge is limited, okay? 368 watch. Can we get 200 thumbs up over on the YouTube? I am going to tell you what I do know, okay? I'm going to start from the beginning with crypto. I'm even going to talk about my involvement a little bit in crypto, what I've seen. I'm sure like the real hardcore crypto people are going to say I'm a moron and I described this wrong or that wrong, or I'm not getting this aspect of it. Okay, I'm sorry. It's the best that I'm going to do. All right, now let's start Bitcoin, because yes, Jason Bermas goes back to Bitcoin days. Before all these different exchanges were out there, before there were altcoins, when basically you had out of nowhere a digital currency that you could mine. And the way that this thing was mined is the idea that there's a finite amount of these coins that are going to be mined, and that your computer's graphics card mostly, which if anybody knows about computers, and you know, it's either your processor and your graphics card, they're like the most powerful thing that's running in there, would make these digital hashes on a blockchain that would create this currency. And as time would move forward, it would be harder and harder for this currency to be mined. And then it would be given a real value in our world via dollars, rupees, whatever. Okay? And the idea was that it's decentralized so that you could have a person-to-person transaction through their wallets and cut out banks and have it happen almost instantaneously, right? Now, from the beginning, I was extremely suspect about this because, one, I always said if it's digital, it can be hacked, it can be gamed. Because, you know, especially security was a big thing that I was like, well, how is this going to work? How could it not just all be taken one day, et cetera? And you have seen scandals even before FTX and this fallout with Mt. Gox, which was a big exchange, just stealing, you know, all these users' crypto because they have access. It's not quite the same thing as being hacked. Now, an entire industry kind of pops out of this over a decade. Bitcoin fluctuates, but once it starts breaking into, you know, the hundreds of dollars and then thousands of dollars, I mean, that's when people really take note. Even before Ethereum, there are other altcoins like Litecoin, I remember, that was out there. There weren't a ton, but they've all kind of, in the beginning, they all kind of hung around that same model. Now, later on, a lot of this crypto, instead of being able to mine it, like, for instance, Rockfin. And by the way, a lot of these are Ponzi schemes, and I think a lot of them are going to go down. Rockfin, I think, hopefully is going to make it with Ray token. And, this isn't kind of my foray more into crypto. Now, I had been part of We Are Change, and they had dabbled in Dash, and that was, these minted tokens, and all of a sudden ICOs, which were, what was it? Coin offerings, initial coin offerings. Okay. So you had now a plethora of ways these things were going to happen. This has a unique model, whereas basically they're minted and burned, but it's all accountable and all in relation to what kind of cash money they pay out. Okay. And Rockfin and Ray token heavily associated, how they pay the creators. When I got on board, it was in like 20 cents range. At one point, when there was that big crypto boom we started seeing, during the pandemic, what was it? $5+ Right now, it's hanging at like less than $1.10. It fluctuates up to like $2. The fluctuation is tough, but with this, there's a purpose, right? Like the crypto basically pays the creator, you pay the cash. Not every token is like that. There are many meme coins and scam coins. And then on top of that, with this liquidity of crypto and these exchanges, you actually have to back it up with something. You actually have to have the Bitcoin you say. And Grayscale right now, which is going to be the next exchange, maybe going down. We'll get to that in a second. So what do I think is going on here? Well, I want people to take a look at this one. This was in April. Blair and Clinton speak on crypto. Hang your heads, FTX. Okay, Tony Blair and Bill Clinton will speak at Crypto Bahamas later this month. What on earth were FTX and Salt thinking? Now, this is April, and you look at this, and it's like Sam Bankman-Fried, okay? And this gang seemed to come out of nowhere. FTX is founded in 2019. So you're talking about hundreds of other projects before this, maybe thousands. And the way in which it's set up in the Bahamas should have everybody taking a step back. So billionaires were getting behind this. This guy had a ledger for Trump lose, was heavily involved in politics, was being portrayed as some kind of savior, driving a Corolla. Oh, he's driving a Corolla. He must be a good person. Really? You're driving a Corolla and talking about climate change and every other virtue signal you can see. What I think happened here were a lot of different things. I think, first of all, the way that this thing was set up was more than likely intelligence run. Now, that doesn't mean Sam Bankman-Fried is intelligence. I think, in particular, their project was picked for a ton of money laundering schemes, okay, and other corrupt dealings. I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to wait for more information to come out. But if you start seeing where the seed funding was really coming from, I think that's where we're going to hit. Just like In-Q-Tel and Google, a.k.a. the CIA and Google, just like Facebook and Sean Parker and Peter Thiel, a.k.a., Sean Parker, somebody who was recruited by the CIA as a teenager, Napster, Spotify, Bilderberg Group attendee, Peter Thiel, Bilderberg's steering member. You're going to see those type of investments. And I think that it just got too out of control, and they needed to basically smaller investors realized they were getting burned, and all of a sudden they started taking out money, and it started collapsing in on itself. There was no way to stop it. And now you're seeing the management phase of it and what's going to be done about it. But what's interesting is these people were being propped up as possible regulators. Hillary Clinton, crypto has potential for undermining the role of the dollar as the reserve currency. This is a year ago, actually. They want blockchain technology, but not decentralized blockchain technology. That's where all this is going. So the IMF, the CBDC, programmable tokens. And essentially, because we've given our governments so much power, even with the decentralization of some crypto, if you bring these in to regulate more and more, and make certain things illegal, only centralized crypto that they control can be used. That's the problem. Now, there is plenty of gaming going on in legitimate crypto that aren't just meme coins or scam coins that do have a purpose. And we're going to get to some of these smart contracts and what that initially means, okay? If the government doesn't like them, they just take them out. And they're going to move to the CBDC, okay? So let's go down the line a little bit. World Economic Forum. It wants XRP as their crypto asset. And that's Ripple. This is September 2020. Why do they like it? Because, again, it doesn't have the limitations of something like a Bitcoin or the decentralization of something like a Bitcoin. They'd much rather have something Dogecoin model where it can be minted out of nowhere. IMF special drawing rights or SDR model. All right, where it's zeros and ones. And when you think about zeros and ones and these contracts, when I talk about smart contracts, essentially these blockchains can be coded to unlock certain things or do certain things. So they want to run, say, Cardano via an AI robot for healthcare called Grace. So you have blockchain control in that aspect, but eventually they want this technology inside of you, the Internet of Bodies, this bio-nanotech, when humans become cyborgs. And then they can literally turn on and turn off a multitude of things internally. Talk about sci-fi crazy. But right now, they're going to settle for something a little bit different. And we're going to play this clip. IMF exec, and this is why we talk about the International Monetary Fund, the whole nine, touts CBDC programmability, communist Chinese-style credit scoring. All right, and by the way, you already have a social credit score, doesn't matter. I'm sure, Google, they have the equivalent to what Apple has. But Apple already has a trust ID and has for years. That is your social credit score. So you got your iPhone, you got your iMac, right? You got all that good stuff. You're big time with them. You got your iWatch, and I'm sure on the Google end, they got the same damn thing. But I want to play this clip of this guy talking about it because, he lays it out. This is it. It's track, trace, database, total slavery, UBI for you, society. Make no mistake about it. That is what this is, 110%.
The third way we think CBDC can improve financial inclusion is through what we call programmability. That is, CBDC can allow government agencies and private sector players to program, to create smart contracts, to allow targeted policy functions. For example, welfare payment. For example, consumption coupon. For example, food stamp. By programming CBDC, those money can be precisely targeted for what kind of people can own and what kind of use this money can be utilized.
Think about how scary what he's saying is right there. And how talk about food as a weapon, food as a weapon, food as a weapon. They're talking about what you can own and what you cannot. He doesn't talk about the geolocation aspects of this, but very, very happy for you to be on welfare, for you to be on their system, for you to eat what they tell you to eat because your tokens won't buy steaks, but they'll buy the bugs. You get it? And there will always be loopholes for guys like this and the people that he serves. Make no mistake about it.
For example, for food. So this potential programmability can help government agencies to precisely target their support to those people who need support. So that way can also improve financial inclusion.
Financial inclusion. Let me just tell you some stories. Some life stories, by the way. Can we, not even 200 thumbs up. Can we get 200 thumbs up over on the YouTube? Make a comment down below. Also, not just in the live stream, guys. Let's boost this. We're about 16 minutes away from going premium, by the way. You can go listen for free over the infowarrior.podbean.com, or you can come on over to redvoicemedia.com/Jason. It's $1 for the first week or $10 a month, and you get the second hour video with that and a bunch of other great voices over at Red Voice Media. But I want to talk about food stamps, welfare, and that system in general, okay? I think it's a horrible system. I lived through that system as a child. Now, I'm not here to play the victim or, you know, degrade my mother or how she raised me or what went on. But I can tell you right now that at a very, very young age, I realized what was going on. And there was a shame for me to go to the store and use food stamps. And the more and more I became aware of this system, the more I disliked it. Now, later on, they'll give you an EBT card, which would be very, you know, less conspicuous or whatever. But, you know, in the line, when after you do this, this is back in the days, people used to go around with calculators while they were in there because they only had a certain budget. You got them in the first of the month. I never wanted to be beholden to the government to eat. This is an invisible system they want everybody on that associates nothing with shame whatsoever, and instead with obedience and behavior. And look, there for those programs, you know, those statewide programs, you had to jump through certain hoops and do certain things. You know, they're training you generationally. I couldn't wait to get out of those systems of control. I don't want to bend the knee to a new techno-fascist version of it for everybody. Where, you know, one of the things back in the day is people would sell their food stamps to others for a discount. What does that mean? Well, you can only use them for food. There are certain things you couldn't get with them. But they'd sell a $100 or a $200 book of food stamps for $50 cash or $100 cash. That's a big scam because anybody could use the food stamps. There was no ID. EBD cards made it a little bit harder, but not really. You could go scan them anywhere. But this, it's by the individual. In order to trade or barter, you'd have to do so with the goods and services that you purchase with these programmable tokens. And everything is going to be tracked, traced, and databased in the future. So there will be severe penalties when you, in fact, get caught. But don't worry. There will be exceptions to the system, once again, for guys like this. Because, again, it's all about inclusivity and equity. And who are we going to target? They're targeting the general populace of the planet.
Of course, I want to end with a caveat, because CBDC is not a panacea. CBDC cannot solve every challenge in financial inclusion. There are some aspects of financial inclusion is not related to technology. For example, financial literacy, digital literacy. So CBDC has to work with other policies together to try to improve financial inclusion.
Anytime you hear inclusion and this idea that they want you to have some kind of knowledge of how the system works, they don't. Okay? And the only thing they want to include you into is their slavery system. So that's where you really get to the ideas of the exception, so you can understand the system. Oh, it's not a panacea. We'll still need to have global governance and the have everythings that truly control the resources. That's what's happening. All right? And if you have any doubt that these people are crazy or mad, okay, I want you to understand something. They hate you. Kids are cute, but they're not really eco-friendly. You're the carbon they want to reduce. And if they can put their own digital systems in play, they will. And they're trying to. Grayscale discount widens to record 43% as FTX contagion spreads. All right, and this is from a few days ago. essentially, there are some people predicting that Bitcoin's going to go below $10,000. I don't know if that's going to happen. That this is yet another one of the exchanges that's about to go down because they're not holding what they're supposed to. And the idea that we need new regulations on crypto. But let me say this. The Security and Exchange Commission is already heavily involved in crypto. All right. We already have laws on the books for fraud. This is them trying to come in and pose as the savior in a problem, reaction, solution venture while there's hyperinflation. There seems to be nowhere you can put your wealth that's actually safe other than infrastructure and resources. Okay? You can have hard assets, sure, like silver and gold, and I'm not trying to denounce those. But again, when you use those, you got to find somebody you can barter with later on with those resources. Really, the resources you want are property, the ability to create your own energy if you need it, sustainability and the fact you can pay your bills, but they want to make all that go away in rapid fashion and then institute their own type of digital currency based on the social credit scores that are really already in place and regulate them out. So this is from October. Apple Financial Services being investigated by a UK regulator over antitrust concerns because they're getting everything into Apple Pay. But like I said, you have a trust score and a trust rating on these things. So these CBDCs and these programmable tokens of when you can use them, where you can use them, what you can use them on is going to be based not only on this trust score, but the carbon units you're allotted, okay? And your movement will also basically come down to where they want you to move, hopefully in a centralized NEOM type city. And if you don't remember NEOM, well, we're gonna take it back and we're gonna play that clip right now because this is how you know it's global. It's not just the United States. It's not just the EU. It's not just the Davos crowd. The Saudi Arabians, the UAE, they're all in on it. They love it.
A revolution in civilization is taking place. Imagine a traditional city and consolidating its footprint, designing to protect and enhance nature.
Consolidating a footprint designed to enhance and protect nature. This is the new Gaia religion. This is why they're doing prayers at Mount Sinai. And, you know, you want groups to tell you that they're Nazis without telling you that they're Nazis, you know. But, you know, telling you that they're Nazis. All I'm going to say is this is going on in Thailand right now. Okay? Take a good look at this one. I'm just saying, guys. You know, you want to tell us that you're Nazis without telling us that you're Nazis? Right here. Sustainable development, challenging balancing act speakers at Apex CEO Summit. This is the private-public partnership they're talking about. This is the stakeholder capitalism that they're selling you on. I mean, it's just crazy. Let's go back to NEOM and the line because they want to convince you that they're going to build these super cities that look sleek and are going to give you everything. They're looking something out of like a virtual reality museum, right? Also part of the plan. And that by giving you less movement and restricting it, you're getting more freedom and a better future because you're protecting the earth.
The line's communities are organized in 3 dimensions within 5-minute walk neighborhoods. Travel end to end in 20 minutes. Designed by world-leading architects, the line is 500 meters tall, 200 meters wide, 170 kilometers long, and housed within an elegant mirror glass facade. The line is designed as a series of unique communities, providing equitable views and immediate access to the surrounding nature. At the heart of the globe's key trade routes.
At the heart of the globe's key trade routes. Don't worry, it's going to be equitable, and you'll have access to nature. Don't worry, Dave.
Place for commerce and communities to thrive. The line, the city that delivers new wonders for the world.
When you're trying to tell us you're Nazis without telling us that you're Nazis. So if Grayscale goes under, I don't know where we go with the crypto space. A lot of altcoins could fall. I think you're seeing the thinning of the economic herd on a multitude of levels. It's not just the mom and pop shops that they got rid of during, the last several years with the mandates and the lockdowns and the restrictions and the handouts, right? It's not just them. It's not just the inflation that's going to crush a lot of people that work in retail and force the larger giants to go to full automation. It's going to crush those too. It's also going to crush the investor class that maybe is in the stock market in the wrong place, in crypto in the wrong place. They're going after everybody. I mean, this is the real deal Holyfield. So we're about 5 minutes from going to premium. When we do go to premium, I think we're going to watch Invisible Empire, New World Order Defined. I think that's an important film. We're going to watch the Iran-Contra section so we can kind of come around to this network that I believe certainly still exists and needs to be discussed. I've got this Alex Jones clip from 2002. It's a bit spicy, and I'm not sure if it would get me kicked off of YouTube, but I'm not sure that I want to play it. But what I am going to play, and if you have any doubt that these people hate you and don't want you to have children and also want to assimilate you to the Borg and make you become a cyborg, Jason, they don't want to make me become a cyborg. Oh, they do. Oh, they do. In fact, this woman right here is so giddy about becoming a cyborg, she can hardly contain her joy. See if it's going to come up. Oh, it's going to.
We're going to start the When Humans Become Cyborg session. You know, I always want to be a cyborg. I'm waiting for the day to become one. But let's see. Like today, we like to really talk about the recent developments of brain-computer interface.
So BCIs, we talk about them a lot here. This is Davos 2020. And in the final moments, let's just kind of show you what this is about. You know, this is a person that works with DARPA, and you're seeing some of the human brain interfaces right there, deep brain simulation. This is the wearables, okay? They call these non-invasive. There's a bunch of other non-invasive type of technologies, including injectables. You talk about the Internet of Bodies, which is going past the Internet of Things being inside you. This is a reality. They're openly discussing. They talk about collective swarm intelligence. DARPA watches a lot of nature videos for a reason, okay? Because nature is really the ultimate technology. It's how do we tap into nature and utilize nature and harness nature to empower humanity. Unfortunately, technology is that double-edged sword that anything that can empower humanity can also enslave it and be weaponized. And that just happens to include information and things like the internet. Okay, and even space. Yes, space. Because right now, it's live. You know, you want to close this down and see it. Supposedly, these are shots from the moon. This is the Artemis mission. I'm going to color me skeptical. Color me skeptical. Right now, they're showing all sorts of live shots. Supposedly, this is Artemis and the moon. Okay, and you can scroll through here and look at also, their commentary on it and their computer models here. And this is it. This is a telemetry-driven animation that they're showing you. But what they're not showing you is that NASA and SpaceX, again, this is a telemetry-driven animation. So some of it is supposedly real, guys. Again, we'll go to some of the real shots. That's animation. That's animation. Pretty sure that's animation. That's supposedly real. Okay? They're not talking about the weaponization of space. They're not talking about Starlink. They're not talking about the Star Wars program. They're not talking about other propulsion systems. No, it's rockets to the moon. But no one there. Just, a dummy and some Snoopy. So, guys, with that being said, when we come back, over on the premium end of things, we're going to play this Alex Jones clip. I'm also going to play my friend Pasta Jardula giving a riveting speech before the Nevada board about elections and election integrity and corruption. And I think he knocked it out of the park. Again, don't want to get kicked off of YouTube. You can go listen now for free over at theinfowarrior.podbean.com. That's free o charge. Yeah, we're doing it. You see that? We give it away free live. If you want to just listen, if you want to come over and support the broadcast financially, it is Reality Rants, redvoicemedia.com/Jason. And again, it's $1 for the first week, $10 for the first month, or lock it in for $100 for the year with that affiliate code and help support the broadcast. So we're going to go over, by the way, we're going to be releasing whatever the broadcast was 2 weeks ago. All of the uncensored stuff still gets released for free 2 weeks later. So I want to say I thank you guys over at YouTube, Rockfin, Twitter, and Rumble. But we're going to have to say goodbye to you.